Somebody asked, how do I know things are getting better in 7 years? Okay, I am going to talk about the 5 major astrological indicators that we are moving into a better era. I'm pretty sure I've talked about all these things before, but I am now going to put them all into one video. Okay, number 1, Regulus moved into Virgo in 2011. Regulus is a fixed star that is associated with like kings and like being famous and having a lot of power. And the entire time we've been alive, pretty much like all of modern civilization, Regulus has been in Leo. It's been there for 2,000 years. That's why Leo is associated with kings and like showing out and power and all those things, right? So it moved into Virgo, which is a feminine sign, back in 2011. And you may have noticed that there have been a lot more themes of like women-owned business and female empowerment and talk about a matriarchy ever since that has happened, right? These are all indicators that we are actually moving towards Regulus, because Regulus was in a feminine sign before, back when the universe was, or the world was in matriarchy, okay? So now it's back in a feminine sign. It's number 1. Besides that, Virgo is the sign of the healer. It's the virgin, right? It wants to take care, it's a nurse. It wants to nurse the earth back to health. Number 2, Pluto is out of bounds to the south, okay? Back in August of last year, Pluto moved out of bounds. That happens, it's very irregular because Pluto has an irregular cycle, but out of bounds basically means that a planet has moved above or below the Earth's elliptical, okay? And whenever Pluto has been out of bounds to the north in history, that has always coincided with a time of like dictators taking more power and like the people losing power, right? Like a big time of upheaval and always in favor of the kingdoms. Whenever Pluto has been out of bounds to the south in history, that has always coincided with like grassroots revolutions and the people gaining more power and like defeating evil dictators and things like that, okay? Right now, Pluto is out of bounds to the south. It will be out of bounds to the south for about 10 years. It's about 2035 when it's going to move back inbounds. But when it does, it's going to stay inbounds for like the next 2,000 years, which is the longest inbounds period it's been, like, I don't know, forever. Okay, next is Pluto in Aquarius, okay? Because the way a Pluto cycle works, think of Taylor Swift's career. Almost Taylor Swift's entire career has been a Pluto transit through her first house, okay? When Pluto was at 0 degrees of her first house, that is when Kanye took the award away from her at the beginning of the VMAs. So she felt powerless as a new artist, right? And then as it moved through her first house, she has a bunch of planets in there. So she had all these power struggles, and then she ended up being very powerful by the end. So right now, Pluto is in Aquarius, which Aquarius is the sign of the collective, the sign of humanity. So as Pluto started in Aquarius, the people felt very powerless, right? It moved into Aquarius right as Trump got elected. So everybody was like, oh my God, we lost, right? Which is one of the big indicators why people should have known that Kamala wasn't going to win if they knew how Pluto cycles work. So anyway, you build your power throughout the Pluto cycle. And then as Pluto moves out at like the later degrees, that is when the people feel like they have their power. And now, because you build your power through having power struggles, you have to dig deep and know you have power. Like, you don't just magically have it bestowed upon you. You have to fight for power because you don't know how powerful you are until you've had it taken away. Okay, next we have Barbolt's basket, which that is the alignment that I talked about recently, and I talked about a lot in July, where we have Pluto and Neptune and Uranus and Jupiter. They're all going to be in alignment together. And that's when the Mars-Uranus conjunction, that is going to be like when the 3 outer planets are in aspect together. And then Jupiter comes in and makes the basket, like just as they're about to move out of aspect from one another, right? And then these outer planets move in and out of aspect with each other several times over the next few years. Now, it's very rare to have an alignment like that. The last time we had all these planets shifting at the same time was in 1737, and we had major cultural shifts during that time. Now, they ended up being shifts towards capitalism, but we had Pluto in Scorpio, right, during that time. So it was giving power to the underworld. It was giving power to like secret societies and like crime organizations and things like that were taking power during that time. But it seemed like also because the planets were in alignment, we had the Great Awakening, and it seemed like there was a big spiritual awakening happening, right? And we did have Neptune in Cancer, so that's when women started getting a lot more of their rights. So now we have Neptune over in Aries, and we're healing masculinity, but all these planets are in better signs. So this alignment is actually bringing us like change that is going towards the people instead of towards like secret societies. And then we also have that Saturn-Neptune conjunction that we just had this week, which is really like, it's a beginning. It's giving us our Easter eggs for what's going to happen. And you see all the Easter eggs that are happening is that power is crumbling. Like Prince Andrew was arrested. You know, they're going to be testifying against Trump. Like all these different things are coming out about powerful people in the Epstein files. There have been like, so the Easter eggs are showing us that the establishment is not having a good time right now. And that is what is going to take us into the Barbolt basket. And that Saturn-Neptune conjunction happened at the 0 degree of Aries. So we know as these cracks like spread out, because Saturn and Neptune, that's earth and water, right? So they're a little bit slower to act. Like water made the Grand Canyon, right? But it took a long time to do that. So the cracks have started forming, and that is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction was also conjunct the IC of the United States in the US birth chart, which is the home foundation. That's like our core of our being, okay? So as this water starts seeping through all the cracks and all these like things, these storylines have a chance to play out, they will be crumbling apart the structures that are already existing. And because the 0 degree of Aries is so significant, we haven't had a Saturn-Neptune conjunction around then since the destruction of Jerusalem that happened in the Bible. Okay, like we're talking about back to like Babylonian times when King Nebuchadnezzar took over. So we are echoing back to that. And how we know that like really the main part of this is going to go on 7 years is, well, that's how long Uranus will be in Gemini, which is when the United States is always at war, right? And that is what we are beginning again right now. And at the end of that Uranus in Gemini transit, we have a Saturn-Uranus conjunction. So right now we had the Saturn-Neptune conjunction to kick it off. And Neptune and Uranus are in sextile with each other. And a lot of the underlying structures for these things happen when Saturn and Neptune, or when Neptune and Uranus conjuncted back in the early 90s. Like that's when a lot of the capitalist things were happening, right? So we're coming around. It's another step in that cycle as Uranus is moving out of Gemini and moving into Cancer, which is then the sign of motherhood. Okay, so that's more about revolutionizing motherhood. And then besides that, then the Barbolt's basket is pretty much done. We've moved later into Pluto and Aquarius. So like all these different transits are showing that, is it exactly 7 years? No, you know, these things happen in cycles. But like the first several years are the most intense. And then like as we get out, the further we get, it just gets a little bit easier, you know?